All right, guys. Oh, man, fudge. Like a damn fan on me or something. These hops make me all hoppy and hot.
Woo.
Make me sweat, man. God dang. Oh, man. Hey, guys, what's going on? Ez and Mike with Let's Look It Up back with a special video today. This is going to be a theories/predictions video. And there are potential spoilers in this.
Right.
Okay. So, anyways, we solved a few things. We want to share them with you very quickly. We know how Rey ended up on Jakku.
That's right.
Plain and simple. We've got it here for you today. Okay.
It's not that complicated.
It's really not that complicated. Okay. And also, please, during this whole video, remember that it's not the future. It's really a long, long time ago.
That's right.
Okay. And we know this, and this is important to share with you guys. We know this because we're Star Wars fans.
That's right.
And we love to look up Star
right.
Wars stuff. We love to read about Star Wars, watch Star Wars. We just got done watching The Force Awakens.
Big fans.
Again.
Yep.
Just to sort of get amped for this video. And we were watching this, and this literally just came to me. So I was like, I had been thinking about this theory for a while, but I thought today we really sat down, we hashed it out, and I thought this is what happened. And we're going to get some flashbacks in episode 8 that tell us this. But let's jump right to it. Our theory is closely related to Stupendous Wave. So we're going to put a link down to his video here just so I watched a lot of his videos. We watch Collider. We watch all sorts of YouTube channels, and we love that. But I thought I'd put the link down there because it is close, but it's also night and day different.
Yeah.
Night and day different. So to start, Mike... Well, we're going to share just a little bit about his theory and just where he jumps off with a particular scene in episode 7.
Yeah, it's focused a lot on the dream sequence. A lot of people go there for kind of thoughts of what's going to happen in the future. It's got to be there, especially after Daisy Ridley said, hey, my lineage is there, this and that. It's in 7. Right. It's pretty obvious. So everyone's going frame by frame in this dream sequence, which... we did too.
We did that today.
And Stupendous Wave focuses a lot on that, which it's great. So his theory kind of originates where ours did, that she was actually supposedly at the Jedi Council when the Knights of Ren either invaded or whatever it was, some kind of attack. She was there. So that's where it's similar.
That's where it's similar. That's kind of where it starts. And, he takes it just very quickly from the perspective that he thinks this is an important scene. He narrows in on one particular spot where, Rey's looking this way and there's someone attacking her, and then Kylo saves her.
Cool theory.
Cool theory.
Very literal if you're looking at the dream sequence. Like she was there in that moment and not just like a fly on the wall, so to speak.
Right. So ours is kind of based off of just we're fans. We know our characters.
That's right.
And it goes back to something very simple. In episode 4, we were lied to. Okay? We were flat from a certain point of view.
Right.
We were lied to. Obi-Wan tells us that Darth Vader killed and murdered your father.
That's right.
Right? Okay. So we were lied to. We were trying to figure out amongst ourselves here just where were we lied to in this movie? Who lied to us?
Yeah.
And we believe it was Han Solo.
Yeah.
Okay? So we think Han Solo... I mean... And another simple thing is I think Disney and I think J.J. Abrams, those guys, they want you to focus in on that vision scene, which it is awesome. There's a lot of information there. There's a lot of stuff that's driving this Obi-Wan theory, and that's cool. And that's awesome, but it's simpler than that. Okay?
Yep.
It's very, very simple, all right? Han Solo would not lose the Millennium Falcon.
No.
He wouldn't lose it in a bet. He wouldn't let it be stolen from him. There is no way he would lose that.
That's right.
If you look back at episode 6, I mean, the way that to part with it, looking at Lando, just sort of like, I mean, right? I mean, he's so like, Lando's just like, don't worry, I'll bring her back to you all in one piece, He was so he's not going to...
Never again.
Yeah.
Never again would he make that mistake.
Never. No, because, gosh, that was a lot for him to do, but it was for this greater cause.
Yep.
So... he gives up the Falcon for a greater cause then.
Yeah, he does.
Why would he not give it up for a greater cause now?
Yeah.
Okay?
That's a great point.
So our thinking is that we know Han Solo. We know he would not leave. There's just too many coincidences that how is it that Rey is on Jakku, the Millennium Falcon is there, the map to Luke Skywalker is there, There's just too much, man. And it's right there in the beginning. Also, the correlation between the lie that happened in episode 4 was towards the first third of that act in that movie. And I think that a similar thing happened to us in episode 7.
Agreed.
So our theory is that Han basically, at some point, we're talking about this. You can share a little bit about like Luke having possibly a vision or premonition of things to come, right? Yeah. Well, we thought maybe like that he foresaw Kylo Ren coming and attacking. First of all, we need to establish that we think that
the
big one is that we think that she's Luke's daughter.
It's just it's too set up not to be.
Yeah, it has to be.
That could be the biggest lie ever, but it has to be.
That could be the biggest lie ever. But I mean, everyone wants to talk about this Obi-Wan connection, and they want to talk about. There's after what Daisy Ridley said, there are basically 3 possibilities.
Yeah.
Okay. It could be Han and Leia. It could be Luke or Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't mean just actual parents. I mean like there's the lineage for you. If it's Obi-Wan, it's just too complex. There's too much to go back and sort of flash back to. You have to figure out who he was with to begin with, and then, I guess it would be his granddaughter. So then, who is it? Then there's some talk. We were trying to think through this. Maybe possibly. Satine is who he was possibly with, and then maybe Sabine was the daughter who hooked up with Luke. Who then could, but I don't know. Yeah. So it's simpler. We just see a lot of different things. Rey has when Kylo is, we're going to talk, first of all, just a little bit about how we think that Rey and Luke are related and that Luke is her father. Rey has a vision of an ocean and an island. Kylo sees that when he's interrogating her. The lightsaber, right?
Yeah, lots being drawn to her. I mean, there's the obvious things that people have talked about.
Yeah, I mean, Maz shares that like this lightsaber was, Luke Skywalker's and his father's before him.
Yeah.
And then why is it calling to Rey? I mean, come on,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It was never Obi-Wan's. It was never.
It wasn't.
So
yeah, he held on to it for a while.
Yeah,
but it wasn't his.
Let's see. The cliffhanger meeting is there. I mean, where they, exchange, or she's holding out the lightsaber back to him.
There's a lot of emotional connection there that just seems too. It's just too intense.
It's an intense scene, man.
What I was thinking when we were talking about earlier, how does episode 8 start out? It's probably them sitting there talking, and what's she gonna do? Sit here and explain that she's just some smuggler, and he's just like, okay, cool. Like that's what a ridiculous conversation to be had in the beginning of episode 8. Like it's got to be, here's what happened.
Right.
Here, this is why you were there. This and that. I don't think she's going to sit here and explain I'm a smuggler, and he's going to have no idea who her parents are, and all this and that.
Right. And there's also, we were talking about how why send Rey and Chewbacca of all the people in the Resistance to send, and we think there's an issue possibly between like Leia thinks that Luke is upset with her, so she doesn't go herself.
Yeah.
Or. The fact that Rey is force sensitive, and they know that now, so they're thinking we'll send this girl to see Luke, and he can possibly train her, or maybe since she has the force, she can find him on the planet, which makes sense too.
Yeah.
But really, there's no explanation as to why she was sent. Just you know what I mean? She's
Yeah.
looking for Luke.
Yeah.
So also something that I thought was interesting when you do hone in and you focus in on the vision, you find that Yoda starts to talk first. And he's talking about how the Force surrounds us and it binds us and all of that good stuff. And then you hear Luke screaming, "No!"
Yeah.
He's screaming "No!" And it's so awesome. And then Obi-Wan says, "Rey, these are your first steps." You know what I mean? Luke seems to not. Now you could. Some people might say that like Luke is saying no because like. At that point in time, you see that Kylo Ren and the Knights of Ren are there destroying the Jedi Order. I more so think there's a contradiction between, we've got 3 Jedi Knights that are sort of, there's a conflicting message there.
Yeah,
okay? And if Luke is emotionally attached to Rey because it's his daughter, and through the Force he's saying, "No, not my daughter," is how I'd almost want to finish that.
It could.
That's just my thought.
It could. It definitely could.
On that little tidbit. So I think we can both say that we're pretty thoroughly, we've been talking about it for over 2 hours now, that we're convinced that Luke is her father.
It just makes sense.
It has to. It's just
It
it's a
makes
Skywalker story, which everyone talks about.
Yeah.
It's that family. And you've got both sides. You've got the light and the dark now, both in the story. You've got the Ben Solo, and then you've got Rey Skywalker. Or maybe she has a different name. light and dark in the same family.
Yeah.
Going at it.
You gotta trust your gut. And that's what the older movies were about.
Mm-hmm.
The light side of the Skywalker lineage and what it can become and how good it can be. And then the darker side with Vader is how
temptation
and how dark it can be. So I think this is kind of a nice continuation of that, with Kylo representing that dark side and Rey representing that light side. So it makes sense to continue the story that way. And to be honest, we're just going with our gut. This is initially what we thought. I think this is initially what everyone thought.
Right.
But we've become
obsessed with this Obi-Wan theory.
It's huge now.
It's huge.
You know what? That's cool. That's a cool
cool
connection, and it's just that's too hard to explain in two movies. It's just too much to explain.
And then you're gonna have an Obi-Wan Force ghost come back and talk to her or something, or
another stranger. She'd be like, "Who the heck are you?"
Right.
And maybe that'll happen, but to explain. Obi-Wan's already had to explain this in the past. Someone else needs to do some explaining now.
Yes.
I mean, he was the one to feed the lie last time. And
I think it's, and also like she needs someone there to actually physically know and have that sort of connection with. And like the only person left is Luke Skywalker. You know what I mean? So it just
Maz makes that clear.
Yeah, she needs it. Also, we looked about.
She doesn't mention Obi-Wan.
No, and everyone believes that. Rey's parents left her on Jakku. I don't think so. It never says that.
No, never.
I don't think Rey's parents left her on Jakku.
She says whomever
you're waiting for.
Exactly.
Doesn't say your parents or what have you. She said in your own heart that they're not coming back. They're never coming back. But there is still one that could come back. And then without prompting, Rey says Luke.
Yeah.
And I think with Daisy's comments saying that she thought it was more obvious, and also she was privy to a script that there might have been some cuts here and there, some certain scenes that she went through that made it more obvious. And then after the screening, she sort of said, she can kind of see why we don't get it, but I think it's obvious. It's Luke.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that, we've established, in our minds, it's Luke. And if that's the case, we have somebody who we know in episode 5 has had premonitions and can see things into the future. And he doesn't finish his training with Yoda because he sees that his friends are in danger. So if he had a premonition that, the order could be destroyed, or that his daughter was in jeopardy, or maybe it wasn't even a premonition. Maybe he gets out of there with Rey, and then he calls upon Han Solo.
It could even have been before that. So we're thinking the attack is what prompted it. He could have foreseen it, like you said.
He could have foreseen
and
it,
got her out of there.
And got her out of there.
Yeah.
And one thing that we want to note, we put this book out here in front of us, Bloodlines, because in this. The timeline, I'll have to look up the timeline exactly on this, but this is before the Force Awakens, and then you have Life Jet after it. But Leia is talking to Han. There's a transmission, and it kind of goes in and out sometimes. It's hard to communicate because there could be, all sorts of things, an asteroid, collision or something, some interference. And she says to him, he's asking about Ben, and at this time, Ben is still on the light side. He is with Luke, but they've lost communication with Luke and Ben. And so and Han is not with her. They've almost sort of like split up or whatever. They're doing their own thing. Han's out doing his own thing, right?
Maybe the splitting of the communication is intentional on Luke's part.
Yeah, maybe it was Luke, or maybe it was,
maybe he's the only one to know where Rey is.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean,
no one else.
Yeah, that or. And also, people were kind of wondering, like, well, how does Han and Leia not know about Rey being Luke's daughter? And that simply could be explained because they sent Ben away. Luke is away somewhere else establishing this Jedi Academy where he has to go away from, the establishment or whatever, in the galaxy. And so he's going out here in some peaceful place to create a new Jedi Order. So anyways, if Luke did foresee this and he saw that, Rey was in danger, that maybe she was the only thing that could come back and maybe redeem Kylo and the rest of them, he might have foresaw that he needs to get her out of there. And so who would he call? Who would he trust? He would need to smuggle his daughter out, smuggle her away. Yeah. He would call a smuggler, and he would call Han Solo.
He would.
And I truly believe that. And also we were talking, how do Han and Leia find out about Ben Solo turning to Kylo Ren?
Exactly.
They had to find out from somebody, so who was there? Who would they trust and believe?
It's not like he called them up and said, "Hey, Mom and Dad, I'm
gone
to the dark side. Probably never going to see you again. I hate you."
Grandpa, is calling to me from
exactly. Yeah.
the other side of the Force, you know? So we really believe that Luke had there was some sort of exchange of information, and during that time that Han took, and now you're probably saying right now, like, well, it doesn't seem that Han recognizes Rey. Not so fast.
Not so fast.
Because he's the one that I believe, I mean, as soon as she takes off with the Falcon, he's there. Bam.
Yep.
Okay. And then when they're there, he doesn't really quite make the recognition because she was probably a lot younger when he dropped her off. They have a map to Luke Skywalker. He stops dead in his tracks and is thinking to myself, he could be thinking back to things that Luke told him. He could just be remembering, yeah, Jakku, the Falcon took off. Here's this girl. Wow. I kind of forgot about it or something,
Yeah.
This family, since Ben Solo has turned, it's almost like they've almost split up and lost connection with each other, and they're almost all kind of lost in a sense. And so, what were we saying? You mentioned this a lot, right? The look.
There's so many looks, and maybe I'm looking too much into the looks.
No, you're not.
But just the subtle, just, I don't know. When she mentions when they're on whatever Maz's planet is, and she's like, I've never seen so much green in the galaxy. The producers and the directors made a choice to have a shot of Han kind of look at her puzzled and kind of like look down.
Almost disappointed.
Almost disappointed that, wow, this person never got to experience this, and I was a part of that. That was an intentional shot. If she just said, I've never seen so much green in the galaxy, okay,
Right. Okay, yeah.
That's understandable. You were a smuggler. You were, a scavenger on a desert planet. That makes sense.
Right.
But for him to have that kind of, I don't know, it seems like he's involved.
It does seem like he's involved. And also, JJ mentioned a few times that when he was dealing with these, especially, Daisy and John Boyega, like when he was talking to them, he knows where the story's going. He's one of the producers and stuff, and he's involved. So he's giving them, as a director, these directions, right, to act a certain way.
Yeah.
They don't really need to know exactly where that one little scene is going to take us or what have you, but it's important, it's pivotal, they kept it in there. So
yeah. And his interactions with Rey, too, I think he's very trusting of her. He's not trusting of a lot of people with the Falcon, giving them a job. Falcon, whatever you want to say. Yeah. Giving them a job. He doesn't really do that a whole lot, other than like Luke. What is it? Episode 5. They're on Hoth. He's like, "Hey, man, they're getting ready to be attacked. He's like, you want to go with me? Maybe you're not a bad pilot. This and that. Like, they have that relationship now,
right?
But I mean, now 20
and that developed through and that developed through a job and things like that. And so, like, he got to know Luke. He just met, Rey.
That's very trusting, especially after
his
son being deceived and all these things going on.
So there's almost a little bit of sympathy there for her in a sense, and I think he's just sort of thinking back to these things. Also, the other biggest thing, too, is that Maz asked Han, who's the girl? And they intentionally cut away from that.
Oh, yeah.
They won't answer the question.
Yeah.
So what was the conversation they could have just stopped right there, and he could have said, I don't know. Yeah. But he didn't. They cut it away. Yeah. So why did they do that? Because he does know. I mean, plain and simple. He knows. He shared a little bit, but he also, and everyone's, this is another point that I thought people might bring up against this, is that, why doesn't he just share this then? I think he made a promise to Luke Skywalker.
I think he did too.
I think he made a promise. We also see a little bit of disappointment when he mentions Luke and he's retelling the story about how one of the boys, sort of, it's almost like when he first hears about Luke, there's almost like this, like, wow, shock moment, but then almost like you said, almost a little bit of a little anger,
right? And that could be, so maybe he does this for Luke before, the Knights of Ren destroyed the Council, or the new Jedi Order, whatever you want to call it. So maybe he's done this for him because, I almost kind of feel like, I don't know if Leia and Han blame Luke for what happened. Yeah. He definitely blames himself. Maybe they don't. But for him to say, hey, by the way, your son, turned to the dark side, could you smuggle my daughter off? Maybe that's how it went, and Han's like, you know what? Your daughter is the last hope.
Right. That could, yeah. And so we're not really sure whether it was that happened, whether it was a premonition or it was a reaction to the attack by Ben Solo. We don't know that, but I am pretty sure that Luke had a conversation with the best smuggler in the galaxy and smuggled his daughter out of there, took her to Jakku, and you've got Lor San Tekka.
Yeah.
and he's there as well as this like overseer, an old ally, and things that was there
There's
as well.
too much going on.
There's just too much, and
Jakku.
Han would have known that.
Yeah.
You know, there's an ally here. He might have given instructions. There's a lot we weren't told. Intentionally, brilliantly done by Disney and
So
JJ
good.
and all those guys.
So frustrating.
So great. So
There could be a little hole in the theory.
okay.
I just thought of this. So it could have been Han himself that smuggled her to Jakku. Could have been someone that Han hooked him up with, because Maz says when she's talking to Rey, whoever you're waiting for is never coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's very literally like, if you're taking that literally, then it probably wasn't Han in your eyes that dropped her off, because obviously she's with him now, like he's back or whatever.
I got you.
So maybe he wasn't the one that did it himself. Maybe he hooked it up. He's
Organized it or something.
Organized it, yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe we're looking into that and taking that too literally, what Maz says.
Yeah, I think
Or maybe Maz is lying too.
Yeah, who knows? We get
Been
lied to a
around
lot
for
in Star Wars.
1,000 years. You don't just get by on honesty for 1,000 years.
No, that's a really good point. We were trying to kind of go through and show like our points, but then also some counterpoints as well at the same time. So we wanted to be, open about that too, because it's just a theory, it's just our opinion. But I'm just persuaded
Yeah.
that there's too many emotional. If you watch, and Harrison Ford's such a good actor, the way that he is interacting with her, there is something there. He knows something.
Yeah.
The intentional cutaway where he doesn't answer the question, I don't know who she is.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Why would he not just say that? If he doesn't know who she is, he does. Here, Han Solo knows who Rey is.
Yeah.
Absolutely, he figures it. I don't think initially maybe he knows, but then he starts to kind of like put it all together in his head, and there it is. He's like, oh my.
And can I say that Rey seems too familiar with those smuggling holes?
Exactly. She
Down
does. Yeah, and-
there, she's doing all this stuff. It's probably all coming back to, I was in here before. That's how they smuggled me into.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Who knows? But so anyways, just our thoughts that we're pretty sure that Luke had a conversation with Han Solo. This book sort of backs some of that up, and that they're
Han's out doing
his own thing. Chewie's back at Kashyyyk. So Han is doing his own thing for Luke, and then possibly his son. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's just sort of where we are on it. That explains to us how Rey was on Jakku, why the Falcon was there, and then why Han so quickly is the first one to pick her up. And then their sort of interaction, and then the intentional cutaway where he doesn't answer the question about her. It just sort of fills in some of the, and we also already talked about her, the connections between her and Luke Skywalker.
Even Leia has her moments where it kind of seems like I know who this is.
Well, yeah, but I also think so. People might counterpoint you on that, because I think there's more recognition between Han Solo and Rey than there is Leia and Rey.
Which could be explained by him going and doing the mission herself. She may never even have known that Luke had a child. She may have felt it. And so when she sees this Force-sensitive person saving the day, she's like, okay, that feeling makes sense.
Yeah, or it just, or that they, or it, depending on whether it was before the attack or after the attack that Luke contacted Han, she could have thought, and the rest of the galaxy, that his daughter, if they knew that he had a daughter, was sort of consumed in that attack by Kylo. But I think it does make sense that since Han is sort of out doing his own thing and he's separate from the Resistance, that he would be the guy, the smuggler, back to his old ways, doing his old things, in contact with a lot of different people, And then there's that deleted scene where what's his name tears off. Remember the guy?
Unkar Plutt, or whatever his name is. Yeah,
tears off his arm, whatever. I don't think that doesn't have a whole lot of play in this.
But how unsuspecting someone left her with him. We know that. Whoever left him with Unkar Plutt.
They did.
Some gross.
Now we don't think
unbecoming kind of like
guy
thing. Whatever. Like that's pretty unsuspecting that you would leave such a powerful individual.
But we also said, we thought this earlier, that Han did not tell. It was just sort of like maybe that guy owed him one. You know what I mean?
Could have. Yeah.
But definitely that he does not know that she's Luke Skywalker's daughter. No way.
No, because he would have made
used
bank
that
on that.
Yeah, he would have used. He was too much of a.
He probably just said, "Here's a bunch of credits or whatever."
Sold her off.
Here's the Millennium Falcon for.
Yes, Han Solo gives it as payment There you go. We literally just thought about this today, so we hadn't really got through the whole thing. But
the mind's churning as
churning.
we record.
Yeah, maybe the Falcon ends up there. So he says it was stolen from him. Come on, guys. There's no way. We were lied to in episode 4. We were lied to
you
in
have
this.
to please remember a couple of things.
That
this is not the future.
Not the future, number one.
And that this wouldn't be the first time we've been lied to.
There we go.
Not only by Star Wars, but by J.J. Abrams.
Saying that we've never seen Rey's parents and things like, get that out of here, J.J.
Yeah, and I don't know if I necessarily believe that.
No,
it could just be that.
Good job on his part for throwing everybody off.
And he should. If I were directing these mega movies to where everyone's theorizing, I would lie my butt off.
Oh, yeah. Just keep him, just sort of bounce it around here. I mean, we saw a video the other day where Mark Hamill kind of slipped up and is like talking about his relationship to Daisy Ridley, not the character Rey. And he's like, she's kind of like my daughter. She's the same age as my daughter. He goes, she's kind of like my daughter. And then he was like, I mean, and then he just kind of like stopped or whatever. And he's like, she's like my daughter.
Wink.
And I was like, oh man. So, anyways, just our thoughts, just our theory.
We don't like to put public theories out often. But I don't know. I feel strongly about this.
I feel strongly about this one. I think you'll come back and you'll say, let's look it up. Mike and Ez were right about this.
Right on. And there will be imperfections. There will be, there's some things that we'll be wrong about, but there's something to Han's just reactions and him playing off that he doesn't know what's really going on. There's too much relation to all of this happening on Jakku. There's too much significance to Jakku.
Oh yeah.
Just like when we thought about Tatooine, too much significance.
Oh yeah.
We find Anakin there.
Yep.
On Tatooine, we send Luke to the planet where his father was born.
I know.
There's too much significance to this planet now. So it's
and then we're using some of the correlations that JJ set up in 7 to 4 to kind of figure this out. I mean, and
there's a lot
of parallels. Somewhere. I mean, yeah. So, all right, guys, let us know what you think in the comments. Please, disagree, correct us on what have you. We would love to go back and forth in some conversation with you. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. And thanks for watching.